Welcome, everyone, to a brand new episode of Let's Talk Broncos. I'm Bree Maestas with Zach Richards. I did it again. Zach Seegers, Joey Richards. I cannot believe it. I literally didn't plan that.
I need to make a graphic that's a tally.
We're not in studio, and I have no idea who these guys are. I'm just contractually obligated to do a show with them every single day. And if you're new here, we are live 6 p.m. Mountain Time every single day. We were off yesterday. Thankfully, Joey gave us the day off. Thank you so much, sir. We truly appreciate it. Before I get too carried away, we talk all things Broncos. That's what we do here on Let's Talk Broncos. You can find all of Zach and Joey's excellent work on Mile High Sports, and you can catch all of our previous episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. But we're live right now. And as you can see the banner scrolling across the bottom, that means if you're watching over on Twitter, you got to hop on over to the YouTube stream chat, and we'll drop that in the thread below. You can search Mile High Sports. We're the first thing that's going to pop up because we are live. Please interact with us. First of all, how are you guys doing? How was the long weekend?
It was amazing. I did decide to give you guys the day off on Monday. You're welcome. Yeah. I mean, I just want to be supportive to you guys when, my podcast workers maybe.
I don't like that at all. I don't think you're cut off.
I decided I'm the boss of the podcast recently, pretty much. It's pretty much what I'm getting at.
So you just sit back and cross your arms and scold us when necessary? Is that what's
happening?
I'm
the decision maker nowadays, for sure.
Fantastic. Zach,
I'm doing great.
Your weekend?
Sorry. I'm doing great. I had a great weekend, relaxed, and ready to get into the season and see how this awesome division turns out.
Yeah, it's exciting, man. I'm so excited about playoff. I mean, not playoff football, but division football this year. This is going to be a fun conversation.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that, and we'll jump right into it. Tonight, we're going to be talking about previewing the AFC West for 2022. But I think what's really exciting about that is the division in itself is kind of hard to predict, right? There's been a huge offseason. Moves have been made. It's anyone's game. I think it's the most interesting division in the league right now just because of the storylines that are going on, all of the different offseason moves. Everyone's coming for the Chiefs. And the market's been kind of disrupted. So you see, blockbuster trades and contracts being dropped right now. And I think a lot of that is going to kind of fall into a little bit how our predictions work themselves out. I'm going to throw it to you guys and let's just hop right into it. Again, if you're watching over on Twitter, jump over to the YouTube so we can interact with you. Comments are coming in right now. I'll get to those in just 1 second. But I want to start probably with the Kansas City Chiefs because I think they're the hot button issue right now. I'm going to throw it to you guys. Zach, do you want to go first? Tell me what you're expecting out of the Chiefs this season.
I think the Chiefs, I'm actually expecting them to have a relatively down season. I think, they're the Chiefs. They have Andy Reid. They have Patrick Mahomes. This is going to be a quality team. But I think this is going to be the worst offense of the Patrick Mahomes era. I feel like everyone kind of overreacted initially to the Tyreek Hill trade. And then in, the months that have followed or whatnot, everyone's kind of gone too far back the other direction where now it's like the Chiefs are the best offense in the AFC or in the NFL rather. And Patrick Mahomes is winning MVP this year and all this stuff. And I just disagree with it. I think we're going to see the Chiefs come back to the pack because this whole offense, so much of their offensive gamble and what they're building towards or building their offense around now is attacking these soft coverages they're facing so frequently. But why? I think they're going to be facing those coverages at a lower frequency because you don't have Tyreek Hill. I think that allows defenses to play a little more aggressively. And defenses were already starting to pivot towards that when Tyreek Hill was on this roster. You saw when Vic Fangio played the Chiefs recently, the Broncos played a lot of single high. The most single high I think Fangio might have played all season, and they were very effective at doing it. So this pivot feels a year late to me with the Chiefs. We all also keep hearing about their investing in the run game. We heard that exact same narrative each of the last 2 seasons, and then Andy Reid got bored with the run game. It's a thing where I'll believe it when I see it. And then I think the defense will be improved, but you're relying a lot on some rookie draft picks. So that's an iffy issue with me. Thanks, Eric Simmons, for the comment. That rookie class looks good, but it is rookies, and you're like relying on a rookie cornerback a ton. You're relying heavily on a rookie cornerback. And like that worked out well for the Broncos last year, and actually a lot of teams last year, but that's not the status quo. If anything, last year's wild explosion, I think, suggests we should see some regression to the mean this year from the rookie corners.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as you, Zach. I do think that the Tyreek Hill move, I mean, it's obviously you have to bring it up when you're discussing the Kansas City Chiefs and their offseason moves. It was massive. It was huge. You mentioned that you don't think that, or it wasn't that you don't think it's that big of a deal. You thought there was an overreaction to it. I kind of agree just out of the fact that they still have Patrick Mahomes, and Patrick Mahomes is amazing. The Tyreek Hill loss, though, is still a big deal just out of the fact that Tyreek Hill really does change the way you play defense. Everyone's trying to draft the next Tyreek Hill, right? How many guys are comped to Tyreek Hill in the draft, and then how many guys actually become Tyreek Hill? There's only one. And I think it's going to continue to stay that way for a while. So that I think that, and I agree with you, Zach, as well, that the rookie class is really good. I love Trent McDuffie. He was one of my guys this last year. His tackling ability is awesome. He's great physical corner. It seems like Washington has one every single year, or a couple every single year, really. But they are rookies, and I'm going to stick by that. The same way I say that with the Broncos and Damari Mathis, who was the Broncos' third outside corner for a while there. And this entire rookie class. Nick Benito, I think that he's going to be kind of just a role player. Same situation over the Chiefs. These guys have a better chance at being productive right out the gate, being that they were highly drafted players. But banking on that, it's just not something I would do. I think that they're probably going to have one of their worst Chiefs teams in a little bit since the Mahomes era. But at the same time, what is that saying? Because the Mahomes era has been so fantastic over there. They're still very much in the competition in the hunt in the division.
Do you think since winning a Super Bowl, the Mahomes era has sort of shifted to the second coming of Patrick Mahomes, and you're going to try to see if he still has it, especially losing Tyreek Hill? Does Juju Smith-Schuster fill a role there for him? A lot of people called Hill sort of Mahomes' crutch at some point. Last 6 years being division champs, your time eventually is going to come up. So I'm wondering, where is there a way that the teams have figured, I guess, Kansas City, Andy Reid out. He may need to shift a little bit to adapt, and it may spell a rebuild. And I don't know how serious that could be, but after this season, if things don't shake out and they don't, end up winning the division or the AFC in general, I think that's going to create some concern. I'm not saying I'm concerned with the Chiefs at all, because I think until they start really playing down and regressing, am I going to have actual concerns about the Chiefs not being at the top. But I think that there's enough to state that they're not the team of the past with an aging Kelsey. I think you're also going to see that as well. Those targets aren't everything that they used to be, and that can actually spell disaster for a quarterback who has relied on them for so long.
I don't think you're wrong, Bree. I mean, I don't think that there's ever going to be a rebuild in the Mahomes era. I really don't. I think what it's going to be more of is if the Chiefs aren't good, and it's a big if, because I still have to see them not be good. I will get to our projections later in the episode on where we're going to rank everybody, but it's going to be more of a retool as long as Mahomes is there. He's just that good. It's going to be minor moves you can place around him, and it's just going to make him look that much better. He's had awesome weapons down there as of late, and I agree with you that this receiving core isn't really it right now. I'm not really that afraid of Juju Smith. I'm just really not. I'm not afraid of some of these guys.
He'll dance on you. You be careful there, Joey.
Yeah, I know. I hate his TikToks. But at the same time, it's going to be more of a Mahomes making Juju and some of these other receivers look better than they actually are. That's what I think is going to happen. That's what really shows who's a really good quarterback in the league. When these average receivers or not so great receivers look really good with you. Aaron Rodgers has done it a lot recently in Green Bay. Obviously losing Devontae Adams, that's going to be a big thing this year as well. But yeah, that's just kind of where I stand. I don't think that you're ever going to have a rebuild. It's going to be more of a retool.
Yeah, thanks.
One thing that players say for me, and I wouldn't go as far as I think you two are going. Mahomes is going to be great for a long time. He's going to be competitive for a really long time. I think, it's just different levels here. Like, it's going to be a top 10 offense every single year. When we're talking about a down year, I think we're talking about maybe they're the 9th best offense this year. And the defense is still bad, and the 9th best offense isn't good enough to carry it all. But yeah, I think when you talk to players, one thing you'll hear frequently is football is really a simple game at the end of the day, and it comes down to math. The Chiefs had 2 players that changed the math for defense on every single play, maybe even 3. Yeah. Actually, probably 3 with the way Mahomes plays. In Mahomes, Kelsey, and Hill. Hill's obviously off the roster. They saw Mahomes, so that's a check mark there. But I think what is also getting underrated is the decline of Travis Kelsey last season. I think he's still a very, very good tight end. He's going to be a very productive tight end, but he is not the game-breaking force he was just 2 seasons ago. Again, still a very, very good player, but I don't think he can take over games and force double teams the way he could in the past. I always point to that Titans game. You saw Dane Cruikshank remove him from the Chiefs' game plan. That's a red flag. That's a canary in the coal mine. Yeah, that's it for me. I think the Chiefs are still going to be a very good team this year, but I do think we see them take a step back.
One thing I also want to add on, just important to the conversation, I think, is that there's been a lot of reports saying that they're going to come out in a new styled offense this year. And I'm kind of excited to see that. More 12 personnel, more stuff like that. It'll just be interesting. I'm excited to see how Mahomes operates in that. I'm not saying that he's not going to be good, because I think that Mahomes is just going to be amazing no matter what. That's just what I think. And that's why the Chiefs are going to be a problem for years to come. When you have a quarterback like that, you're never really out of the question.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I think that we're making bold claims across the board. Maybe it's just I'm tired and sick of that narrative that they're just always going to be good. Eventually someone has to figure them out, right? But I'm sure I'm going to be sadly disappointed as we get into the season. I do want to refer to what Joey said about Davante Adams and that absolute blockbuster acquisition for the Las Vegas Raiders, who are going to be up next on our talking points. I want to talk to you guys about this a little bit and see how you fall, because I know there's going to be a few people in Broncos country who have some things to say. So please chime into the chat. And if you're watching over on Facebook, you can comment. If you're on Twitter, hop over to the YouTube stream chat. We're going to talk about the Las Vegas Raiders. Joey, go ahead. Hit me with it.
Okay, the Raiders. I think that they have that Davante Adams trade was awesome. I think Davante Adams is the best receiver in the NFL, pound for pound. He's freaking awesome. I love Davante Adams. Darren Waller, awesome. Hunter Renfrow, awesome. These are 3 guys that are awesome. And I think Derek Carr has also been underrated for a long time. Now, there's some question marks there, and I think you can't ignore it, especially on that offensive line, man. When you see them getting rid of former first-round picks, and you have an injury at right tackle to go along with that. It's just like, I saw a tweet the other day where it was like, name me 2 Raiders offensive linemen off the top of your head. Or can you name me 2 Raiders offensive linemen off the top of your head? And it was just jokes under it, because it's just not there. You don't really see it. I can read you what their projected line looks like. Colton Miller, good player. And then you have John Simpson, Andre James at center. Right guard is Lester Cotton, and then right tackle is Jermaine. I can never pronounce this guy's last name. Yeah, of course. And that's just kind of their offensive line, and that's an issue. Josh McDaniels, I think he's a weird coaching acquisition in the fact that his ceiling is extraordinary high while his floor is extraordinary low, as we've seen in Broncos country. So the Raiders are really the wild card of the division to me. But I do think that they have the most holes. So that's just kind of where I land right now.
Frankie, and I will say, I'm pulling straight from my brain here. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you. I just wanted to point this out. Couldn't name a cornerback outside of and I forgot the other one's name already. We were discussing this earlier. So Frankie, shout out to you. I agree.
I will say Nate Hobbs had a good season last year, and Trevon Moore looks to be good. But outside of that, Frankie's absolutely right. Like it's question marks.
Yeah, going back to Joey's McDaniels point really quick. I think the ceiling, I guess, is high, and the floor is incredibly low. I think that we know for certain. I still am not buying into the ceiling is high part because I think there's an interpersonal part of coaching, 100%, and he has shown zero ability in his career to manage that part of coaching, like most Belichick disciples. And we see the Belichick disciples go everywhere, and it is wild how they all make the exact same mistakes. I've learned from all the other Belichick disciples' mistakes, and how they're going to be the one that isn't, trying to be a Belichick clone and whatever. And then you look at the practice footage from the Raiders and all the practice highlights, and he's doing the Josh McDaniels like way too high, way too low, all over the place thing. And not just that, but then he's doing the crazy roster moves that we saw with the Broncos. I thought this offseason Dave Ziegler did awesome, and it did actually have me a little worried. I was like, oh man, maybe we are going to see a more like normal Josh McDaniels. And then they just trade Trayvon Mullen. We just talked about how bad that secondary was. Trayvon Mullen was one of the better cornerbacks in that room. Like, any way you slice it. I think the only way you're trading him is if he's such an unbelievably bad scheme fit that you just can't manage it. But you have nothing in the cornerback room. Like, I think he's better in man than I don't even know the guy they're throwing in to replace him. But like, I've seen Trayvon Mullen in man coverage before. It's not like he's a non-rosterable player for how bad he is in man. It makes no sense to me for a team that desperately needs cornerback help.
I think Zach is losing connection here, so I'll hop in. After making the playoffs for the first time in 5 seasons, the Raiders kind of feel like meh to me, right? The DB room is questionable. We've already covered that. A new coach in McDaniels. Is play calling enough there on his side in order to make an impact there? And sorry, Zach, I don't know if you heard me trying to hop off you. For some reason, you completely dropped off. Awesome. He's gone. It's me and Joey's show. Joey, the off-season drama for the Las Vegas
Finally got him off the podcast, Brie. I'm like, my God.
I sent a little gremlin to go take out his power source. We're all good here. It's our show now, and I'm just going to talk until my actual...
I want to respond to one of Zach's points while he's not here and he can't respond. Is that okay?
I mean, I was in the middle of something, but yeah, sure, go ahead.
Okay.
Before he comes back, it's going to be
okay, yeah. I want to respond to his McDaniels point. The ceiling is high because we haven't seen him head coach in a long time. And we all know the play caller he is. So the ceiling is high because we don't know if he's improved in certain areas.
I'm going to say you got that because I said play calling. So you're welcome.
Exactly, Bree. We were on the same page. This is why this should be our podcast at the end of the day. Matter of fact, let's put a little block on his side. Is that possible?
He can't come back in.
Yeah. No.
Go ahead.
That's what I think. I think that the play calling is amazing. We've seen it with the Patriots for a really long time. Josh McDaniels is extraordinary and it's a way to adapt. He's able to adapt to different situations and different things so well. He's not just glued to one idea. Like, we need to get this done. It's his way that he changes things on the fly. It's just what the Patriots have done for so long. And Josh McDaniels is an awesome play caller. I don't think anyone can take that away from him. Zach did make a point that the personal side isn't that's a huge question mark, and it is. But the reason it's a question mark and not a definitive answer is only because we haven't seen it in a while.
Yeah. Has that changed? Has that come back? I'm not sure yet. And as I was talking about prior to that, is the acquisition of Devontae Adams enough? Because it was not only at a steep price, right? So you're already feeling the effects of giving up a king's ransom for that. We know Adams is the best receiver in the division. Can Carr improve his touchdown to interception rate to make that even mean anything? So you get the combination of Chandler Jones, Max Crosby. The defense can probably fluster a lot of QBs, but is that enough? Carr is, in my mind, the fourth best QB in the division, and he's a lot lower on my top 10 list than I think a lot of people are, my top 20 list, because I have him outside of the top 10. So I think that the butterfly effect of McDaniels plus the Raiders, it's either going to be really brilliant or it's going to burn the organization down to the ground, which I think they've already done a relatively good job of doing in past seasons during this upcoming off season. And I think the changes that they've made maybe necessarily might not be enough. And a lot of the personal drama within the team, I think, is going to have a lot of finger pointing towards McDaniels when it may not be his problem now. Like, I think he's probably matured a little bit as a coach, but that's only because I don't harbor any ill intentions towards him. I think that I don't think that I have. We just kicked him off again. That was not my doing. I hope you
it was
that.
great. Don't let her tell you different. Anyway, you can continue.
And I'm just kind of going off on this, like, a wait and see approach, because I would hate to discount and count out the Raiders specifically because of the McDaniels hire, when I think a lot of other things play into that. You're obviously seeing a lot of contention. Did they do enough in the offseason? There's this crazy statistic out there about the draft picks for the Raiders. I know we've played off of it before, of, not retaining fifth-year options for a lot of them, just blatantly getting rid of Leatherwood. There's a lot of question marks, just kind of how they operate as an organization. Zach, are you back?
Yeah, I think so. My computer is like totally crashing. This is fantastic.
I think why when we think we get him off the podcast?
Frankie says, went to the kitchen and now Zach's gone. Finally had enough and killed him, I guess. Well,
it honestly probably is here. She sent goons out for me like Tanya Harding. On the Raiders, though, I heard some of what Brew was saying.
Zach, I responded to your McDaniels point and completely destroyed whatever you had going on there. But unfortunately, we can't go back.
You don't believe culture matters for a coaching staff whatsoever?
No,
I agree it does.
No, we agree. We both agree. We're just saying that the possibility is there that it has changed. It is. He hasn't been a head coach for a long time.
He's demonstrated nothing to that effect. Like, I agree, it's
right, but it could be a shock. It could be.
Yeah, well, why couldn't it have changed? It's at least a question mark, and that's why the ceiling is high. Like, what has they exactly shown to say?
I would say the ceiling is like 8 feet tall, not 10 feet tall. I don't think it's like high.
I think it's high. Because he's a phenomenal play caller. If that has improved, it really makes it like a big, Josh McDaniels is really good.
Zach's going to keep shaking his head, and then he's just going to keep losing internet connectivity.
I'm so furious at my internet right now. I'm so sorry. Did my point go through at all?
I just won again. Just mute. This is a good idea. Maybe I just have to mute Zach in the future. I thought I was just killing him. He had nothing to say.
Yeah, I know, he was just speechless. That's not possible. Speechless. Zach's back.
No, so I my thing is, it could change. It might have changed, but there's no evidence of that change. And to Bree's point, maybe it is a shock. And I don't know, maybe Derek Carr suddenly looks like the best quarterback in football. There's no evidence of that either. Maybe he shocks the world. I'm not predicting it, right? Like,
I'm not banking on it either.
Yeah, we're not.
Where's the evidence of this personality 180? Like, it's a huge personality shift.
Because he got hired for another head coach.
What I'm gonna say is that we can't pretend like we haven't seen people improve at their said jobs before. There's definitely the possibility that Josh McDaniels learned from his last time and improved this time. Like, I don't think that's far-fetched. Like, I think for the normal person, if it wasn't Josh McDaniels and it wasn't such an issue last time, we would be saying, oh yeah, that's 100% a possibility. It's just in this one circumstance that it's not.
But what did he demonstrate in 2016 when he got the Colts job? The exact same personality flaws. Like, I don't know. It doesn't look great. And then you see the practice footage and he looks like the exact same McDaniels, the good and bad, like really high, really low, kind of all over the place that we saw in Denver. I don't see someone that's like turned over a new leaf. I'm just saying, where's the evidence of this? If we were saying any player or anyone has done a 180 and has gone from being really bad in one area to being really good in one area, yes, it's a possibility. but I don't think we should like expect it or think it's like especially likely when there's no evidence demonstrating it.
No, it's more so.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
How do we know it's problematic that McDaniels didn't take a job if it were not like I've read things where it was football logistics related as far as the internal.
Okay, here's how we know it's problematic.
Get him,
but it was in 2018, so it was 4 years ago. And you're telling me someone can't make a monumental change in their human nature? I'm not even trying to stick up for McDaniels. I'm just saying, like,
I'm saying there's no evidence of it. So why are we expecting it? We're thinking it's especially likely.
We're not expecting
it.
When you talk about a ceiling, when you talk about a ceiling, that's a potential. Not like a wet
But where's Drew Lock's ceiling? Like, I don't know. It's one of those things where I don't know if it's realistically attainable. No. I don't know if it's, there's no evidence. I mean, yeah, I guess, but then why don't we say Vic Fangio's ceiling is the greatest coach of all time? Or like all
Vic Fangio,
is the greatest coach of all time. You know what I mean? Like, why doesn't that just apply to every coach? I don't.
It kind of does when you're talking about when you're just talking about what you're expecting from an offense. Like, I'm expecting the Raiders to be mid, actually less than mid, because I don't even have them hitting the average mark. However, when I think about McDaniel's role in that, I think that he could be a really good head coach. I'm not saying he's going to be.
So this would be my answer to that, Zach, is that it's because he's one of the best play callers in the league. That's why his ceiling's so high. He's literally one of the best in the NFL on the offensive side of the ball.
Here's the thing. We've seen him kind of demonstrate who he is for 13 years. And I get there's no evidence to expect it's going to be different. Everyone that comes from New England kind of has the same problems when they try to head coach based on all the like social clips we've seen, which is the only evidence out there. It seems to have maintained. I understand you're saying, yes, it's possible. I'm saying, why don't we ascribe this, yes, it's possible mentality to every single head coach? Why can't Vic Fangio be the best head coach of all time? Maybe at his next spot, he will have learned a ton about offense and he's changed how he views things.
Because it hasn't been enough time.
You're talking to the wrong one about Vic Fangio, number one. That's what we have to get out of the way right now, because I think Vic Fangio's ceiling is high. I think, do we need evidence of something or like proof of something?
I think
One second. Do we need a ceiling? Do we need to have evidence or have seen something to put a ceiling on it? I don't think so. When we're scouting NFL players, I don't have to see someone run the crispest routes to say he has potential in route running, which makes it ceiling high.
Athletic traits that demonstrate that.
And that's what I'm saying. For McDaniels, it's the play calling that gives him the ceiling of a very high coach.
I'm not expecting him to do a personality 180. I just think, why don't we put this on Rex Ryan too and say maybe he learns a ton about offense. Maybe in the last 7 years, he's just crammed all the offensive tape and now he's an offensive genius. Why aren't we assuming Matt Patricia can be a great offensive coach? Because he hasn't done it before. There's no evidence of him doing it.
But I don't think any of us are saying that
all right,
we think or we think that it's going to happen. We're saying there's a ceiling and there's a floor, and the play calling moves his ceiling up. That's the only thing. That's why his ceiling is high. It's the play calling. And then if he improves in a certain area, it makes it that much better. Now, if we're talking about
he's going to hit the ceiling, though.
I think the difference is
he just had that ceiling.
I see a 45-year-old man that's been the same way for 12 years. I don't think he's doing a personality 180. I view that as a cap on a ceiling. What I view the play calling is doing is giving him a very high floor, because at the very least, he's going to have really good offensive.
Oh, this opens up a whole different discussion.
Same thing with Vic Fangio.
So
Vic Fangio offered you a level of a floor because you knew he was going to have really strong defensive play calls at least.
So you think
you have 2 more minutes? You have 2 more minutes.
Okay, 2 more minutes. I said that you think Josh McDaniels has a high floor. I don't think so. I think that
I'm saying what the play calling provides is floor to me. It doesn't maximize the ceiling. It provides a floor because at least we're having good offensive game plans. To me, that is a floor, not a ceiling thing.
So I disagree. I think that both of them have to work together. One can pull the other one completely down. I think that it doesn't matter how good of a play caller you are if you're that bad with people, if you're trading players, if you're doing stupid things, you're going to be a bad football team. That's why I'm thinking that his ceiling is high and his floor is low. Because if the personality traits are an issue, it's going to be rock bottom.
That's fair.
All right. That's about 122nd-ish and I just because I don't want to talk about it anymore, so I'm moving on. I appreciate you guys. I really love the discourse, but I'm going to move on to the Los Angeles Chargers just because to save my sanity. And before I remove both of you from the chat, I'm just talking with the viewers alongside.
No, I liked it when you were getting in it, Bree. That was awesome.
Well, we'll talk about it more. Maybe we'll have an entire episode dedicated to the coaches.
We're gonna not see Bree for a minute, and she's gonna come back just wearing all white, blonde hair, just a complete 180.
Ooh, that would be pretty crazy. Could you imagine if I switched up my brand that much? That would actually probably startle.
Yeah, it doesn't seem realistic, does it?
Wow.
Okay, all right.
Okay, all right. Zach will never let this go. I need some people to chime in the chat. I saw somebody say that Carr is a legit badass guy. All right.
Receivers from nowhere.
Let's go to the Chargers, okay? So they made a legitimate run at the playoffs. They addressed the bottom half defense with J.C. Jackson, Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa. Does Herbert continue his rise in his trajectory as an elite quarterback? The defense doesn't buckle under pressure, and the additions aren't enough, and it doesn't make much of a difference. The Chargers sacrificed a lot for a little return in some of the offseason moves that they made. So tell me, how do you feel about the Chargers moving into this next season? And please do not even bring up the coaching staff. Like, we're just not even going to go there, all right? I'm going to throw it to Zach, okay?
Go ahead, Zach.
I think we got to talk about the coaching staff with this team because it's the one concern. The roster is practically flawless. You look at the offensive line, they hit on Rashawn Slater. That sucks for Broncos country. That guy is going to be a stud tackle for a very long time. Justin Herbert is Justin Herbert. They've got some nice running backs. I think they're good on left guard, center, right guard now, adding Zion Johnson to the mix. Right tackle is, I think, like the one concern left. The weapons aren't fantastic, but I think they're good enough, especially when you have Justin Herbert and what appears to be a pretty steady line. And then the defense, like, you're giving Brandon Staley all the pieces. He has no excuses now. He is like really no excuses. I guess maybe if they get struck with injuries because there's some concerning depth in some areas, but I think that just applies to most defenses. If that defense is bad again this year, I think that's going to be then maybe we can have the Brandon Staley conversation. But it's a very, very talented unit. I expect it to be a very good defense. Getting to the coaching staff, if I'm the Broncos, I'm so happy. I always forget his first name. Is it Michael Lombardi? What is it? Something Lombardi. Mm-hmm. The offensive coordinator for the Chargers. I am so happy he is the offensive coordinator for the Chargers. I think he limited Justin Herbert quite a bit last season, asking him to dink and dunk a lot. And I think he's got and Justin Herbert's a great quarterback. What are you laughing about, Joey?
No,
I just have to point out this comment in the chat that's from Karen Price. Thank you for chiming in. Go Broncos. I think if this redhead is a Raiders fan.
It seems like it. It seems like it because she's just assuming Josh McDaniels is going to be a different human being.
What are you talking about?
I'm not holding biases from a previous season that happened, and like I can move on,
Zach,
and you can't move on from Josh McDaniels, from Drew Lock. From what else are you holding on to? Because I really want to know. Karen, I'm a Broncos fan, and I'm a Tom Brady fan. So welcome to Let's Talk Broncos. We hope you join. Go ahead and subscribe.
Welcome, Karen.
Some of us don't assume, people just make wild changes.
Bro, when did a ceiling ever become assumed? I don't understand this. When did a ceiling ever become assumed? I can dress someone
attack on camera, and I don't know how to handle it.
Okay, the Chargers, they're great. I think they're one of the on paper they look like one of the best teams in football. Justin Herbert's amazing quarterback. There's an awesome article that came out recently by Steven Ruiz, and it's just awesome quarterback rankings. It's very detailed. I love the graphics involved with it. It's just awesome. I love the entire article. It's very cool. Recommend everyone to go check it out. And he had Justin Herbert, I think, 4 on there. And I don't disagree. Justin Herbert's awesome, phenomenal talent. And just the same thing with Mahomes. When you have a quarterback that good, it's like, yeah, you have a good shot at being a good football team. And then now when you look at his cap hit compared to the rest of the AFC West, it makes sense why their roster is that good. It's a huge, massive benefit to have an elite quarterback on a rookie contract. I can't emphasize that enough. You can go out and sign other players. You can do other things. It's amazing to have on your team. Unfortunately, the Broncos don't have one, but hey, I'll take Russell Wilson, right? But yeah, back to the Chargers. Justin Herbert's amazing. Their entire roster up and down looks pretty good. Their corners are awesome. Their DBs look really good. I do not have a problem with them other than that there's that one little thing where it's like, man, it feels like I'm always looking at the Chargers rosters and saying they should be good. You know what I mean? That's just how it feels a lot of the time.
You know what the one issue is, though, is that their cornerback depth, and we were talking about this earlier, and they have Bryce Callahan for a very legitimate price that doesn't really hurt the bank, and he's listed pretty high up there. And I think, Zach, you said he was their starting nickel then.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they got Michael Davis coming off the bench. Struggled last season, which is kind of why he's on the bench. But that's a great number 4 corner to have. I mean, the Broncos wish they had a number 4 corner that was that good.
I love it.
My dad coming in.
Yeah.
Your dad said I can have a cattle prod.
He knows I'm right. He just feels bad to see me bullying my friends. No, but I do think this Chargers team is absolutely loaded. I don't know. My concern with them, again, is just like Lombardi. Maybe he can screw it up. The right tackle, I do think, is a concern. And then this coaching staff still isn't proven it. Like, I do believe in Staley as a defensive mind. I think we still don't know if he's a good head coach yet. Like, those are maybe injuries. I think they're kind of a stars and scrubs roster where, some injuries at some key places could hurt them, like wide receiver being one. I think tight end being another. Some places on defense, I think that defensive line's a much better spot. But they're still going to have to play Jerry Tillery a lot. Like, there are some chinks in the armor that I think could get exploited with injury. They could charger themselves. But, like, as they walk out on week 1, I think it might be the best roster in the NFL. Like, it is.
Wow.
Or at least starting line. It's the best starting lineup, maybe. It's fantastic.
The Bills are right there as well, I think. But the Chargers, man, on paper they look loaded, right? Like, it's just what it is. When you go out there and you make additions like Khalil Mack, like, what? That's pretty cool. Different things like that going on, and they're just bringing back a healthy roster. I'm curious about Michael Davis. I know, Zach, you kind of put me onto this. He didn't have a really great season last year, and there was rumors of him just not being good at all in training camp this last year or this offseason, which is so weird because Michael Davis, when he was up for free agency, was like a corner that I know a lot of teams wanted. I remember a lot of people wanting him for the Broncos, tall, athletic corner that's really good in press man or cover 3 type systems. But yeah, I think the Chargers are really, really good, and I don't really have many complaints about them either.
Awesome. Let's move on to, obviously, the Broncos. We haven't covered them yet. You guys want to do a quick little, how do you feel about the Broncos and how they stack up against the rest of the AFC West? I'm just going to go first here so I can give kind of an outline of everything. We know that we talk about this all the time, right? Second year GM, new coach, new elite quarterback, new owners. It's green. It's new. It's unknown. I'm curious. I'm hesitant. I think I'm excited, but Russell Wilson, is he going to look like Russell Wilson? Has he been surrounded enough? Have enough pieces been acquired? He wasn't placed in a terrible situation, so I think that he's got that going for him, and the Broncos are in a really good place to score more. I think that improves drastically. The defense is an even bigger monster under the bed of the AFC West, and then Surtain and Simmons could quite possibly have career years just with how good they're going to look. I'm saying top 5 defense isn't out of the realm of possibility. I think that's you kind of root for those things to happen because you hope that they happen. But the worst thing that could possibly happen is Wilson struggles and some of the big acquisitions turn out to be a bust with injury related concerns. So tell me, how do you both feel about that?
Go ahead, Zach. You take it.
Yeah, I think I love your point on the defense. I think the defense is really talented. That's a unit with a high ceiling and a high floor, in my opinion.
Let's break that. No, I'm just kidding.
But I'm a big fan of them. I don't know. I believe what we're seeing in camp. I'm worried about maybe the defensive line depth. That was something I had a lot of faith in. And then I think in the preseason, we saw that exposed. And then I think cornerback depth was also exposed, which is disappointing considering the Broncos have the most expensive secondary in the league. And I think ultimately, if I had to guess, I'd say injuries at cornerback prevent them from being a top 5 unit. I still think they could work their way into the top 10. But I love the edge rushing group. I think that's something Broncos country should be really optimistic about. For an article, I went back and was looking at Bradley Chubb's 2020 season, and I think that gets underrated kind of in hindsight. You saw pass rushing production drop across the league because if you remember, that's the season when holding was allowed for whatever reason. They just decided to stop calling holding. And pass rushing production went way down. Bradley Chubb, despite having 7.5 sacks, finished 7th in pressures and 9th in pass rush win rate. I could have those flipped, but still top 10 in both. And those, I think, as Joey would agree, are better indicators of pass rush production than just like a raw sack total. Bradley Chubb was playing really, really well in 2020 at a near elite level. And I don't think it's wild to think he could return to at least that form. And if that's the case, you have him at a high level. Randy Gregory, I think, is honestly the bigger unknown and the bigger question mark, but you've seen him play at a very, very high level very recently. NFL Network's Greg Rosenthal said he would have put him on his midseason All-Pro team last year. So like, that's not nothing. I don't know. They're really good. Baron Browning looked fantastic in the preseason. You saw the flashes of Nick Bonito that I think get you really excited. You also saw the low end with him there. Jonathan Cooper made this roster and had a really promising rookie year. That's something I feel a lot better about than I did before season and everything. So love the defense. I think the offense goes without saying that should be a lot better. So yeah, I think they match up well, even if they're not the best team in the division.
Yeah. For the Broncos this year, this is kind of off topic a little bit, but my biggest thing, less than winning the AFC West, the biggest thing the Broncos have to worry about is sneaking into the playoffs. That's what I hope that they're able to do. I think that this team is going to be better down the stretch than at the beginning. I really do. I think that if the Broncos make the playoffs, they have a shot. It's what they do at the beginning of the season. Now, they have some easy ones in the beginning, but you have to think the Broncos are playing with a brand new coaching staff, a brand new quarterback, and a lot of new going on, which could make them look not that great at the beginning. It's down the stretch that I think that they're really going to come into play. I do think that the Broncos, something that not a lot of people bring up, I'd be shocked to see the Broncos not have the best running game in the AFC West. I absolutely would be shocked to see that. I think they have the best 3 running backs. Nathaniel Hackett's going to run the ball a lot. That's something that we've seen. And I'm not very impressed with our other AFC West running backs, or really. Yeah, go ahead, Zach.
Sorry, I'm just wondering, what about the running game's low floor? Like maybe Javonte Williams is just bad now.
You know, it's funny you bring that up because I was going to ask you if – oh, wow, he just left.
I actually
Bree kicked me. She saw that I was about to make a snarky comment.
No, Zach, it's funny you mentioned that because I was about to ask you if the edge room, when you were talking about that, would you consider that high floor, low ceiling, somewhere in there?
I would. That in the receiver room. And I outlined it in my article. And I honestly, I'm glad you mentioned it, because there's a world where Bradley Chubb looks like a top 10 edge rusher and Randy Gregory isn't far off that. And Baron Browning is obviously not a rookie, but like as a first-year edge defender is getting like incredible praise as if like he'd be in the defensive rookie of the year running. And Nick Benito has some exciting splashes, and Jonathan Cooper still looks good. Like, that's a reality. I think it's a very unlikely reality, but it's a reality where all those things work.
Ceiling.
No,
Where
all the things work.
I'll remove you too.
All these guys, all these players have demonstrated the high-end ability I'm talking about. I'm not talking about Malik Reed being an all-pro and saying that's why they have a high ceiling.
Jonathan Cooper has presented us high upside. I don't know.
I didn't say high upside. I said
he's continues
to look good. I said continues to look good, and he was the 5th edge rusher. He looks like a really good 5th edge rusher.
Yes. Also, I'm changing us real quick because I don't like how when you rejoin the chat, you
but anyways, I think the Broncos are going to have a really good running game. I don't think the other AFC West teams are going to have a running game like the Broncos. I just don't. I look at the Broncos running backs; they're 3 deep at the position. I think Mike Boone is pretty legit, and he brings a different dimension to the Broncos offense. And I'm just not really impressed with the other AFC West running games. How much value that brings is up to you guys. I know that's a highly debated conversation there, but I do think the Broncos will have the best run game. Now, Russell Wilson is the biggest, and I don't want to hear people talk about it. Everyone talks about an arms race in the AFC West, blah, blah, blah. All that's great, but the biggest addition in the AFC West, without question, I don't care what you have to say, is Russell Wilson. Yes, it is. Russell Wilson brings a different ceiling to the Broncos this year. He does.
If someone says ceiling again, I'm throwing hands. It's removed from your lexicon. You have to come up with something completely different.
Yeah, I'm going to start using ceiling just like, I don't know. Anyways, I think that he just brings a whole different thing than Devontae Adams brings to the Raiders. Quarterback position is that important. Khalil Mack brings the Chargers. Anything like that pales in comparison to what Russell Wilson potentially brings to the Broncos. And that just is what it is. It's what the quarterback position is. It's the most important position in football. And yeah, that's just what I have to say about the Broncos.
All right. Well, Joe, you said the magic word and you talked about value. How about we talk about the most valuable player that we think is going to come out of this AFC West? Did we want to show the graphic right now? Or do we want to just run through them first?
Let's maybe run through and then throw it up at the end.
If I remember correctly, we are all in agreement on the MVP for the AFC West. I'll go ahead and announce it. I believe Justin Herbert, the quarterback for the Los Angeles Chargers, will be the MVP of the AFC West. He's just been that good, and he's shown his, I almost said ceiling just to be funny, and then I stopped myself. He's just shown that he's going in a trajectory that's
the option that still said ceiling.
I almost removed you again just because I didn't have a comeback for that. Yeah, you're right. Tell me why you guys arrived at Justin Herbert for the MVP.
Because I think that when you talk about MVP, that always includes like record, different things like that. I think the Chargers are going to be an awesome football team, and I think Justin Herbert is an awesome quarterback leading that team. So that's why Justin Herbert is just a phenomenal player. He's going to be awesome with the Chargers. He was awesome last year, and this Chargers team is even better this year. So that's just my take. Justin Herbert's going to be really good and probably the best player in the AFC West this next year, or the most valuable player in the AFC West this year.
Right.
Yeah, I think set aside MVP of the AFC West, I think Justin Herbert is going to be the MVP of the league. Unless the Chargers totally lay an egg. If this team goes like 12-5, which I think is totally achievable, maybe even like 11-6. Like, the NFL just loves crowning the next great young star quarterback. I feel like that's kind of the trend in the MVP awards. I guess it hasn't been the case with the two Aaron Rodgers.
Could he beat out Josh
Allen?
There
was like a narrative one. I guess he could. Josh Allen, I think, is going to be really good. But Josh Allen, and I think it gets lost because he just like lit the whole league on fire for like the last 6 weeks of the season. Had like some cold spells in Buffalo last year. They also have a first-time play caller running the offense, so they might have some hiccups out of the gate. I think Josh Allen is the great other pick because it also maintains that same trend. I really think it'll be one of the two. I think Burrow has a good shot too. Maybe even Tom Brady in a swan song season if he has a great year. But Justin Herbert, I think, would be my pick for MVP of the league if I had to lay money on it. So I got to predict him as MVP of the division.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this conversation comes down to, the Denver sports fans know, and I think all of our fans are Denver sports fans, how much of a talking point was the Nuggets record for Jokic's MVP this last year? It just was. It's a big thing. So if you believe in the Chargers, you're going to believe in Herbert for the MVP reward thing. And I think Zach laid it out perfect. The Chargers are going to be awesome. Justin Herbert's going to be really good. He has a good chance at winning the MVP.
And the Chargers have more trendy potential. Like, that's stupid, but I think that kind of matters. And like they could be like kind of the trendy, like cool thing, kind of like the Bengals were at a point at the end of last season. And ultimately that didn't win Burrow the MVP, but I think it's part of the reason he made a bit of a surge. Frankie's
kicked out of the chat. Are you guys, can I go ahead and move on to the offensive player of the year?
You can.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I feel like I've been permission granted. I just wanted to make sure in case you had something else to throw out there. I thought somebody might say ceiling again. Anyway, so known for, kind of going the way of possibly statistical outliers here. It's a little bit different than MVP. For the offensive player of the year for the AFC West, I feel like
no quarterbacks.
Exactly. Yeah. No quarterbacks. Yeah. We went with no quarterbacks because all of us would have had to pick either between Mahomes Mahomes or Wilson for this pick. So we all decided that we're going to go no quarterback.
Would you really have picked Wilson for this?
It's possible. I don't.
It was my first answer I had on it because I think, again, there's a narrative element. I think this offense is set up really well for him to have some good numbers. I already predicted Mahomes coming back to the pack some, so.
Okay, well, that's fair. I went with Courtland Sutton. I think that just because if the chemistry that has been touted with Sutton and Wilson is actually true, and because we've touched on this in the past, Joey, about a player returning to form a year out from their injury, knowing that Sutton has an elite QB, looking for Sutton to return to form after suffering that torn ACL, I think is just... It's paramount that the situation be ideal. And I think with the lack of Tim Patrick targets because of the injury, I think the hype is real. And I think it could be a magnificent, what is happening to my...
Clip it.
Magnificent step in Sutton's career. I was reading Twitter, which I really shouldn't have been doing while I was on here. But I know, on the pod. We're not in studio. I can do whatever I want right now. To me, it just seems like if everything is right, the ceiling is really high. There, I did it for your benefit.
No, Russell Wilson hits those deep shots so amazing. And where was Courtland Sutton best at? Down the field, making crazy catches over people, beating people deep, beating people all different types of way, but mostly down the field. That's where all of his highlights are. If you go turn on some Courtland Sutton highlights, you're going to see a lot of down the field throws where he's mossing guys, right? And the idea of having one of the best deep ball throwers ever in the NFL in Russell Wilson, with a really, really good 50-50 ball guy that makes a lot of plays down the field in Courtland Sutton. You can make a case there, Bree. I like it. But I feel like, Zach, do you have anything to add on there before I hop into mine?
Yeah. I will add a little on Sutton. I think he's looked phenomenal in camp. It started early. Like even in OTAs, I was like, okay, it does look a little different than last year. I think he's moving better. And then there were like a couple catches early on, in camp, like before the pads came on. I was like, okay, this is looking good. And then, by the end of camp, we just saw like the Ronald Darby one that went viral, but it was just so frequent. And granted, not against Patrick Surtain, because Patrick Surtain, I think, is about to have a really special season. But just kept making insane catch after insane catch, just diving every which way. And it looks like the old Courtland Sutton's back. That is something that I'm so fired up about with this season. I was frankly sad about Courtland Sutton last season. I think he was on the precipice of a breakout in 2020. And then the ACL robbed it of him. And then when we saw him come back in 2021 and he wasn't the same, I was worried it permanently robbed him of that opportunity. After seeing him in camp, I am optimistic that we will get to see the best version of Courtland Sutton, and I couldn't be more excited for it.
Cool. Should I agree. I think Courtland Sutton's going to be awesome this year. I don't have any doubt. I think that he's the most consistent piece to the Broncos offense or the Broncos receiving room. My pick for this offensive player of the year would be Davante Adams. I've just seen so much good Davante Adams through the year, through the Packers. I think he's been the best receiver in football for a little bit now. I think Davante Adams is awesome. I don't expect it to slow down. I think Derek Carr is a very underrated player for the Raiders in quarterback. I don't have any problem picking Davante Adams here just because, man, when I look around, I think he's the best.
But his quarterback's not. So
I think Derek Carr's a little underrated, Bree. I think Derek Carr's a little underrated.
I'm kind of with Joey there. I think the argument for me against Davante Adams is there are a lot of mouths.
Josh McDaniels.
and I think McDaniels is perfect because it is a dramatically different offensive scheme. I think that's fair. So like we talk about maybe earlier when we were talking about the Broncos, you brought up, I think this is going to be a better team later in the season because there is going to be somewhat of an adjustment period. I think the same is going to be true for the Raiders offense. Even though I do have faith in McDaniels as a game planner. I also think, again, lots of mouths to feed. Darren Waller is maybe the second best pass catching weapon in this division. Like you're going to want to feed him a lot. Hunter Renfrow, you're going to want to feed him a lot. And I also think when you look at Davante Adams, he was best operating from the slot in Green Bay. Like great receiver, he can do it all. I don't want to limit his potential. But when you look at when he was most efficient working out of the slot. And I think that's kind of the new thing in the NFL. The problem with that is I think if the Raiders want to get their best personnel grouping on the field, it involves Hunter Renfrow and Davante Adams. And I don't think you're playing Hunter Renfrow outside and Davante Adams inside. I think you're playing Hunter Renfrow inside and Davante Adams outside. I think he'll still be great there, but I don't think it's the same. Like it's, you're not perfectly utilizing him. You're still utilizing him very well, but maybe not perfect. I think that's a knock. There's a lot more mouths to feed. Once again, the quarterback point, it's not Aaron Rodgers level good, even though I do think Derek Carr is underrated. Those would be my points against Davante Adams for OPOY.
I think I don't know why I'm making this face, but I just think we should have a conversation at another point in time, not to drag this out any further on Derek Carr. But maybe you can convince. I've asked so many people to try to convince me, and all I hear is he's underrated. I don't know.
But Bree, maybe now he's a different person and he's just the greatest.
I will remove you again. I will literally remove you again from the chat and I will block you from StreamYard. That is the level of which I am at right now. Quickly, y'all, let's jump over to Defensive Player of the Year. I'm going to go ahead and go first because everyone knows exactly who I'm going for here. And I think it's going to be unanimous across the board again. I'm going with, actually it's not because we have a plot twist. I'm going Patrick Surtain the second, PS2, and I'm going to mic drop it once again. And as Joey has once previously pointed out to me, it's just because he's a unicorn of a player and you really can't top his level of production out there on the field. So go ahead and try to pick otherwise. I think PS2 is going to win Defensive Player of the Year for the AFC West.
Joey, before you poke holes in it, just because I know you disagree, I'm in the same boat as Bree really quick. So let me reaffirm the case for Surtain. Surtain, I think, is going to be the best defensive player in this division. I know that's strong. That's how confident I am in what I've seen from the guy. I think what he did as a rookie was absurd. He's got all the talent in the world on top of it. He's already very technically refined. Now he has a season in the NFL under his belt. No one could catch anything on him all camp. Whether it be Courtland Sutton or Jerry Jeudy or CeeDee Lamb or anyone. Like, I think he lost 3 reps all of training camp. And you're talking about doing 40, 50 a day. He was unstoppable. Now, I'm going to talk out of both sides of my mouth here. Defensive Player of the Year often requires some stat tabulation, and I think Patrick Surtain is going to do very little of that. because no one's going to throw the ball his way ever. But in terms of who will be the defensive player of the year, maybe not the award, but like who is the guy of 2022, it's Patrick Surtain II. I think the sky's the limit for this guy. I think he's going to be the second best cornerback in football after this year, and I could see him being the best.
Okay, all right. Just so everyone knows, we are still arguing about the definition of ceiling in our private chat right while the podcast is going on. But how many so do you think defensive player of the year, usually you have to accumulate stats. And do good cornerbacks usually accumulate stats? I don't think so. I think a lot of the best cornerbacks in the NFL do not get thrown at. So I don't think that Patrick Surtain has a great case of winning the defensive player of the year because of that. I think that the teams are going to be targeting other players more than they're going to be targeting Patrick Surtain. And a lot of that is like Marcus Peters and Trevon Diggs, like they have had defensive player of the year cases off of interceptions. But because of that, it's just because people were throwing at them. They had opportunities for interceptions. Patrick Surtain is getting to the point where I don't think maybe this is the last year it happens, but he's going to reach a point where teams aren't going to be throwing at him. I think that my pick is going to be Derwin James because it's going to be really easy for him to get stats. Being a defensive weapon for the Chargers unit, being a player that can move from position to position. He can play safety. He can play linebacker. You can throw him in the nickel. He can be good. He can play deep. He can play close to the box. He's going to get stats. He's going to be lurking, getting interceptions. He's going to be making a ton of tackles. He's even going to get sacks. So that's why I picked Derwin James. I think he's the best DB pound for pound in the AFC West.
You're banned from the chat, Joey. You weren't lying about the private chat just going off. Go ahead, Zach.
Sorry. I love the Derwin James pick. I almost went there before Patrick Surtain. I think if you're talking about like who has the better chances of actually winning the award, it would be Derwin James because it's the stat tabulating award. And he's going to be put around the ball a lot in that star position. Brandon Staley's cooking up wild shit for him. I will say, injury-prone guy who's going to have his nose near the trenches a lot, and that worries me. The Chargers defense has gone the way of Derwin James's health in recent years. I think if you get 17 healthy games of Derwin James, he has a good chance of winning the NFL's Defensive Player of the Year award, let alone the Division One. I struggle to have faith we're going to get a full healthy season of Derwin James, unfortunately. And I think that's honestly one of the biggest concerns with the Chargers 2022 outlook, let alone this made-up Defensive Player of the Year award.
Interesting. Okay, I'll take it.
Okay, we'll just agree to disagree and move on from there. Who is winning the division? We're gonna go around real quickly. I'm not gonna get all crazy with this, but let's talk about who you think is walking away with the win, the most wins for season total. Which, as I'm looking at the tabulations, it looks like we're in agreement again. It looks like the Los Angeles Chargers are the number one team in the AFC West for all three of us. Are we in agreement there?
I do. I think that the Chargers are the best team. We've kind of already laid out the reasons why. The Chargers are awesome. I don't have any issues there. It's about health for them. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I'm totally with it. The Chargers, I think there's a chance they get snake bitten. But outside of just like the Chargers curse, it's really hard to cook up a reason why they're not the best team in the division.
That's fair and point. I think the best way to do this, what I'm going to do, sorry if it's a little clunky, I'm going to hop on over to the season predictions banner and just pop that up on the screen so you guys can see real quick. Looks like we are kind of in agreement here. Not really. There's a little bit of change, as you can see on your screens. I've got the Chargers and then the Broncos. Zach has the Chargers and then the Broncos. And then Joey switches it up with the Chargers and then the Chiefs. Joey, why do you think the Chiefs are going to, I guess, keep that second spot there? I'm trying to get us back on the screen, but
yeah, Zach hits the he gets the
big
full
Zach screen.
he gets the full Zach screen while I'm talking. It's mostly because Patrick Mahomes. I just have to see it to believe it. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes. That combination is insane. Andy Reid's amazing. Patrick Mahomes is amazing. I'm gonna have to see them fail before I think that they're gonna be bad. I have more questions with the Broncos than I do with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. That's just how it is right now.
Bree and I have the Broncos second. I don't know if Bree said that yet, but Bree and I have the Broncos second, where Joey has the Chiefs. It's for why I laid out earlier. I think we're going to see the Chiefs come down to earth a bit. It's going to be the least impressive offense of the Mahomes era. It's still going to be a very good offense, but I think the defense is going to, maybe improve from being a really bad unit to just a middle of the road unit. But I don't think it's enough.
I like to point out how often Zach will reference the fact or just completely ignore the fact that he's repeated something that I said. He's never listening to me when I'm actually talking. So when he says, I don't know if Bree said this, it's because he actually does not know. So let's I got to talk about this. Joe, you have we all have Las Vegas as the last team. That is something that we're all in agreement to. It's where is the line between the top three teams? So with the Chargers, the Chiefs, and the Broncos, I strongly feel that those teams are separated by 1.5 wins. Tell me, how do you feel? Is it close? Is it close? Do the Broncos stand a chance here against those two teams? Is this the year where they best the Chiefs? Is this the year where the Chiefs aren't the best in the division? Like, there's a lot of rotating musical chairs right now. What creates that change there? And how far off are the Denver Broncos from being in the top two, in the 2 or the 1 position?
I don't think it's that far off at all. I think a lot of it comes down to injuries at the end of the day. I really think that. I think that you may look at it at the end of the day and be like, the Broncos were the healthiest team, so they came out victorious. The Chargers were the healthiest team, so they came out victorious. You can kind of go down that. That's a big thing. It's that close. I wouldn't be shocked to see all those teams be divided by 1 or 2 wins. Like, that's just how it is. These teams are going to beat up on each other. I think that this is finally the year the Broncos beat the Chiefs at least once. There's a lot of things going their way, but man, is it going to be a bloodbath. And I also want to throw this out there real quick. I cannot wait for these AFC West games. It is going to be must-watch TV. That rivalry feeling that all of our fans get, that we all have memories of, whether it's been through the Chiefs these prior years or so on and so forth, we're going to get to feel that with all 3 teams. We get to play them twice a year. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait for it.
They're going to be great games. They're going to be great games. It sucks. Well, I don't know. Like, it's a double-edged sword. I think it sucks in some ways that we have to wait all the way until like November, December, January to get to those games. But on the other hand, it's great we have to wait for it because they're going to really matter. They're going to be some of the most meaningful and exciting NFL regular season games, at least on paper, that I can remember.
Raiders, I'm looking forward to it. Week 4 is kind of be here before we even know it. And like you said, maybe that's just the anticipation of whether or not the Broncos are able to work out their kinks through the start of their schedule and really hit those AFC West games and rivalry games head on. I'm looking forward to it. The private chat is still going. I don't even want to look at it, and I'm not going to be in the group chat later when we're done with today. But we have finally reached the precipice of our episode with Joey's question of the day. And Joey, I think it's time. Wow. And as long as it's not about McDaniels, please feel free.
Okay. I remembered it. I literally just forgot for like a little bit there. Who has the most receptions in a game in Broncos history?
Most receptions in a game.
This was an NFL record for a little bit, I believe. I remember exactly when it happened.
Most receptions or interceptions?
Receptions.
Oh, I know the player. I know the number. I know the opponent.
Yeah. So do you have memories of that game? I literally remember the
exact game. It was Brandon Marshall, 21 receptions. I think it's still an NFL record, and he did it against the Indianapolis Colts. It was in Indy. even. I'll give you that aspect. And it was, I even want to say it was on number 20. I have vivid memories of Brandon Marshall making, I really think it was number 20, just look childish for an extended period of time. And it was just like, why wouldn't you stop throwing it his way? Because they cannot guard him. It was the, like, you know, people always say, like, you hear it oftentimes in training camp, they'll be like, he can't guard me. He can't guard me. And normally it's just trash talk. That game that day, they really couldn't guard him. It was a blast.
Of course, Zach won. And of course, he was able to recite it off like it was an encyclopedia article. I appreciate that. I'm no longer playing this game. It's been a tremendous episode. We're going to probably end it here. We went a little bit long. We hope you enjoyed everything that we discussed tonight. Appreciate everyone who chimed in the chats, who's watching over on Facebook, on Twitter, on the YouTube. If you're just tuning in or you missed most of the show, you can catch this episode. You can either watch it back on Periscope on Twitter. You could just rewind to the beginning and go throughout, or you can find it on YouTube once it gets posted. It's over there on Mile High Sports, or we'll have it over on Let's Talk Broncos as well. Thank you guys so much. Zach, Joey, tell the people where they can find all your stuff.
Yeah, everyone go follow me at JR Drafts, and then you can find my work at Mile High Sports.
Find my work at Mile High Sports, or on Twitter at Zach_Seegers. Thank you, everyone, for enjoying the chaos of this episode.
Listen, if you're not going to act like you're happy to be here, I'm not going to ask you anymore to pitch your stuff.
No, I'm just trying to get faster every time now.
You can find me on Mile High
Faster and more empathetic. It's great.
It's like he's talking about, I don't know, a long lost sibling or something. It's very depressing. I would like you to stop stealing my brand and my bit. You can find me on Mile High Sports here with the Let's Talk Broncos crew, or Mondays and Wednesdays with the Fan Cave on Mile High Sports Radio 98.1 FM, 1 to 2 p.m. Let's Talk Broncos goes live 6 p.m. Mountain Time every single day. We'll be back tomorrow. Have a crazy live episode scheduled for you as well. Can't wait to talk. Appreciate you all. Let's go Broncos and let's ride.
Let's ride.
Let's ride.
Let's ride. Let's ride.
Let's ride.